pleads for leniency before a judge sentences him for this. An attack on District Court Judge Mary Kay Holthus as she sentenced him in January on a charge of attempted battery. Redden running up and jumping over Holthus's bench. Holthus and a courtroom marshal both injured in the attack, leading prosecutors to charge Redden with attempted murder. During trial in September, Redden agreed to plead guilty with the stipulation he's mentally ill.
You can't let people do that.
Wake up, America. It's the Comm Center with Drew Breezy. We decided to look at a case from the past year that we loved, that we weren't allowed to talk about because it doesn't have a 911 in it. But it's definitely one of those things where if you were there, you would think, holy shit, somebody call 911.
All right. Diabra, speaking of prison.
Speaking of prison.
Diabra Delone Redden is a 31-year-old man from Las Vegas, Nevada. He has a history of criminal activity and mental health challenges. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia at age 16. Redden has struggled with untreated mental illness, which has been cited in his criminal behavior, by the way. Redden's criminal record includes convictions for attempted theft in 2019 and domestic battery in 2021. And in 2024, in January, as a matter of fact, which is just 11 months ago, during a sentencing hearing for an attempted battery charge, he violently attacked Clark County District Court Judge Mary Kay Holthus. The incident captured on courtroom video showed Redden vaulting over the judge's bench and assaulting her, causing minor injuries. Court officials intervened to restrain him. In September of 2024, Redden pled guilty, but mentally ill, to charges including attempted murder, acknowledging his actions were while highlighting his untreated schizophrenia at the time of the attack. His defense attorney noted that Redden was not on his prescribed medication during the incident, which is going to be part of the discussion tonight. It's not necessarily a serious discussion, but on December 10th, 2024, Redden was sentenced to a prison term ranging from 26 to 65 years. And during the sentencing, he expressed remorse, stating, quote, "I'm not making excuses for my actions, but I'm saying I'm not a bad person. And I know that I did not intend to kill Mary Kay Holthus," end quote. Judge Susan Johnson emphasized that the attack was not only against Judge Holthus, but also an assault on the judiciary. So I have a few, like we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to show John's video in a second. I have a few mixed feelings about this because I was like, man, you can't, this is one of those cases where you have to send the message. And you can't let people do that, and because it went viral. So, you know, I think even the most hardened criminals will be like, yeah, that was the dumbest thing you could do, because you know you're going to get the most time for doing that. Judges are the most fragile of the criminal justice system. I know this from experience. And it's kind of like it does present like a moral dilemma because, you know, way back in the day, we had somebody at my agency that was actually shot. She was pinned down. She responded to a domestic in an apartment complex. She was pinned behind her car and she was shot. She was not, taken from us. She recovered. In fact, she's back on the job, but she was shot by a Marine who was having a full-blown PTSD meltdown. And so now comes the dilemma. Do we treat this in military court and, you know, help this guy understand the gravity of what he did? But at the same time, we can't let the public / general, I don't know how to say it, but you can't, people can't just take pot shots at the police. It's a different story when you do that. And it should be, because, you know, we're the protectors. It's not that our lives are more valuable. It's just that we're more vulnerable. And when you take a shot at one of us, you've taken a shot at all police officers, essentially. That's pretty much how we view it. That's how the court system views it. So I know that I set this up in a serious manner, John. Can you save us?
I was going to say, I call all the foregoing spoilers. I want you to just relax a little bit. This is a serious issue, but you know what? There's serious people out there dealing with it. That said, neither of those people are going to be me or Drew. And we're going to have just a little bit of fun. And why, though? Why would you do that? Why? Because one of my other favorite cases this year was just the one from 2 weeks ago, the sentencing of Sarah Boone, where we get to go ride that crazy train with Sarah. And I'm sad that it's gone. But this crazy train's also pretty crazy, and it'll work in a pinch, particularly as our last episode of the year. With that in mind, I call this presentation I know this state has a job to do. Take a drink presentations. I don't want you to be all like, this is a serious issue. Don't make fun of someone who's mentally ill. We're making fun of the fact that like this is like the best that he can do to really stand up for himself. He's got a lawyer and all this, but we want to just enjoy the absurdity of life, because what he's saying in terms of his defense, to be honest, is a little bit absurd. So I'm not here to upset anybody. I am here to have a good time. I hope that you'll enjoy this. And if you can't, hey, I tried. I'm a person who never stops trying to do the right thing, no matter how hard it is. I'm not a rebellious person. But if it's appropriate, you have to do what you have to do. This from Deober Redden, charged with assault with a baseball bat.
I think it's time that he gets a taste of something else, because I just can't with that history. In accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, this court
No. The attack is on. Okay, on the right-hand side of your screen, the guy who's wearing a nice suit, the black suit facing the screen, that is a clerk. It is his job to just, do whatever the judge says, make notes, look at the judge's calendar, make sure everyone's name is spelled correctly, just kind of generally like be the clerk. It's obvious. But he's being called into action here as Drew, what do they call it in wrestling when the secondary guy just jumps in there? I don't know. I didn't watch enough.
I don't know. There's a third man in rule in hockey. This is kind of like the third man in. You might get an instigator for this one. 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'll play it out. Then I've got just some brief questions for you. Boom, 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 boom.
Well, he is throwing punches, like not just the clerk, but
everybody but Redden's attorney, who's standing there saying, "Why are you doing this?
Yeah,
Why do you have to make this as hard for me as possible?"
Yeah, like I can hear him saying, now.
Technically, everything that's happening in the scope of his behavior before the sentencing is all game in terms of what the judge can do in terms of, if she has discretion in terms of how she sentences him. I will tell you that this is how it turned out, just because there's a lull here. But she had already obviously written the sentence and entered the sentence and explained what the sentence was going to be. She ends up fulfilling her duty of sentencing this man. She didn't change the sentence at all. So you really have to respect her. Judges are supposed to be impartial. Justice is supposed to be blind. She's blind to her own hair being pulled and getting strangled out by this guy. She understands that he's going to face new charges and that those will be dealt with on a later date. But even though she continues to see bad assaultive behavior, she did not change his sentencing for this. Anything else, or I'll keep going?
No. Actually, just for his frame of mind, he was thinking, I believe this was a violation of probation. So he was thinking he was just going to get.
He thought he was going to get probation. Yes. Yeah. He'll explain later what his expectations were for the day. He didn't think he was going to prison. He's actually out right now on a plea deal where he had agreed to a plea. He would plead guilty. He would have the charges reduced from, I think it was some kind of third-degree battery. He was assaulting someone with a baseball bat, which if you think about it is pretty serious. And that led to him not being in custody. That's why he's in jail. He's in court today, and he's not in any kind of restraints. Now, restraints would be prejudicial to the jury. We saw Sarah Boone in without restraints. I think at one point she may have had an electronic restraint, something where you can press the button and it zaps you. This guy could have used a zapper. Something to think about going forward. Las Vegas. Maybe you want to put on a little leg zapper. But the other thing was, there was some commentary here. And it's kind of mean commentary. Can I say the mean commentary?
Yeah, go for it.
These guys were all kind of getting on the cops in the room, whether it was bailiffs or U.S. Marshals. I don't think it was the Marshals because this would have been state court, but whoever it is that's in charge of courthouse security, whoever it is that's supposed to keep him from supermaning over the desk. There's somebody there that's supposed to do that. I would call it a bailiff probably. And they're like, how could this happen to a member of the judiciary? And I thought, we get our asses kicked all the time. People are kicking in our teeth and jumping on us and hitting us. And like, the judge doesn't deserve it. And she's a woman and no one should ever attack a woman. But we do have female police officers who are out there getting attacked by guys like this all the time. And as much as I don't want that judge to be hurt, I don't want anyone to happen to anybody, but it's just like, cops sign up for this, like the welcome to the real world. Now all of a sudden, like criminal stuff's not hypothetical. It's not something that happened to someone else. You get to actually, people are always generally on their best behavior in court. You never really catch them at moments like this, right? Like a judge very rarely sees this in person. And it's not that I'm glad this happened. I'm not glad this happened, but it's just like, welcome to the party, right? This is the shit show that we all have to deal with. Like, this guy's real. And you expect cops and police officers and bailiffs and U.S. Marshals and everyone else to go out and confront guys like this. And we get jumped like this. Now you know what it's like. A little bit of empathy going around, Drew.
I'm telling you that when I was in my position as a detective, I was in what they called, it used to be called criminal intelligence, then it turned into like selective operations or something like that. But we were essentially...
I like criminal intelligence. It's an oxymoron.
Well, no, right. No, we were gathering intelligence on criminals. So intelligence criminals didn't really fit the bill. So we were charged with anything deemed sensitive by the sheriff, in addition to gathering information about hate crimes and hate groups and public corruption and all kinds of stuff. So what we became was like the personal security force for the judges in our area. And not to branch off into too many stories, but I was working a case where there was a threat to a judge. And again, they are very delicate people. Like, I do understand that they have a lot of power. They yield a lot of power and they deal with a lot more people than we do, because they're dealing with everybody we put into the criminal justice system and they're sentencing them and all that. But so you kind of have to take their threats seriously. This one wasn't as serious as some of the other ones that I saw, but I still gave it the due diligence. It turned out during that case, there was another threat to one of our chief felony prosecutors. And I became like her sort of bodyguard and the judge's bodyguard at once. I was doing both of their investigations at the same time and kind of watching over them. And that other one, the prosecutor, that is Pam Bondi, who's getting ready to be the attorney general. So we hope anyway, because she is a solid prosecutor. She is a wonderful human being, but she's a solid prosecutor, not a partisan prosecutor. But at any rate, so these judges are a little bit more sensitive to your point that like when they get a threat or they get anything that they don't like or something untoward, it's like when a guy gets a cold, right? Like when we get a cold, it's like the bubonic plague. When a woman gets a cold, she's expected to do, what she's there to do. But when we get a cold,
isn't that why we invented the double standard?
Yeah, that is exactly why we invented the double standard.
Anyway, let's watch the rest of this fight because you can see here that Diobra has got his right fist cocked. He's ready to lay one out. The judge is on the floor. She got her hair pulled. She got lightly strangled, just light to medium strangling. I think he's attacking somebody else at this point, though.
I think he ended up having surgery, John, or she ended up having surgery. If I'm not,
I don't want to downplay what she went through. I'm just saying I'm not privy to her medical records. I just know that for sure she got her hair pulled and she got light to medium strangled, which is more strangling than she was carrying on having at work that day, I'm sure. But back to the fight. Ding, ding. Lawyer just standing there. He's bored. Things police said those were sissy punches. The clerk Still, though, he's doing a pretty good job.
Get off her. Get off her. Oh, no, you're good. You're good. Stop. Don't do this. Hey, where's Mary Kate? Is she okay?
No, Judge is fine. She took 3 days off of work, but Redden picked up 13 new charges. Who can name them all just based off of that? You know, I didn't find any one source that named all 13 charges, but fuck, it's a lot of charges. You picked up 13 charges in like 60 seconds there. I think they said attempted murder was probably the worst one. What is it when you like it's not extortion, but when you're trying to like influence a public official to change
corruption by threat of a public official, or
yeah, I'm sure they call it something different in Nevada, where those things are more common than
in Nevada. They just call it Tuesday.
On Tuesday, they call it Tuesday in Nevada. But here he is at his sentencing. He's going to speak for himself. This is just like when Sarah Boone took the stand. He's got a little bit of an opportunity, and I want you to pay attention. I've done my best to decode him. I'm going to be honest. He goes on for a little long, and I got tired when I made this. I was working on it last night. I'm just like, at a certain point, I just throw in my hands, and I'm just like, whatever. This guy's so ridiculous. He doesn't even need my help. But you'll see a convenient graphic at the top of the screen that will let you know what mode you're in. And I'm just going to let it play. And Drew, my comments are on there, so I'll just have you pause it whenever you have something fun to say. Here we go.
I don't understand why the state is like really going after my character. I mean, I've always had problems since I was a little kid of like psychosis and being in big crowds, and always feel like my life is in danger. I didn't know, being a young person, even in middle school, elementary school, knowing that like I fear for my safety. I'm just being me, going to school, growing up, trying to do the right things. I never get tired of trying to do the right things. The state just said that I have no remorse.
He couldn't even remember the word remorse.
No remorse. Like, I feel like Judge Johnson.
Weren't you going to say you felt remorse?
She doesn't know me. I understand she's doing her job. I'm not mad at her for that. But I know that I'm not a bad person. And I'm thinking, like, even she knows that. But I'm sitting here like she's doing her job, you know? And I believe that you all know that I'm not a bad person. I'm not an evil person. When I came to court on January 3rd, 2024, I was listening to music. I was in a good mood.
We had a good day. It was a good day. We've had good days lately.
I had a stable place to stay. I was trying to get a job. I did not catch any new charges.
It's been good. Like, I don't even know where this is coming from.
I'm not a bad person.
So what he's doing right now is that, and I was telling Drew before the show that I have occasion to work. I have an anecdote for every situation. Those of you who listen to all my various podcasts know that no matter what comes up, somehow I have a story. This one's not really a funny story, but I worked with adults with disabilities for 10 years. Some of these guys had a myriad of problems, but their biggest thing that they all had in common was arrested development. They were all kind of childlike. And when they would get in trouble, when they would have a behavior or whatever, and we're talking about guys who are 25, 30 years old. Some of them are as old as me. And they would try to plead their case for having reduced sanctions or whatever to the extent that we could sanction them for anything they did. They would always kind of go back and they say, before that, I was listening to music. I was having a good day. I was interacting well with my peers. And the reason why they do that is, first of all, it's like a childlike defense. Like, this is someone else's fault. Someone else instigated this. I was having a fine time until a judge tried to sentence me for my crimes. Everything was going great. But he's talking about how he was listening to music and how he's having a good time. And he'll mention again, because he'll kind of go through a cycle of everything he's going to talk about. But he kind of wants time off for the good behavior he had while he was not in prison. And it's him reflecting that he was engaged in the coping mechanisms that all his life he's been told to employ when he's getting upset. What do you do when you're upset? What do you do when you're thinking about acting out, when you're having trouble controlling yourself? Maybe do the things that calm you down, listen to music, go for a walk, whatever it is. This is the things that we would tell these guys to kind of get them to self-soothe, but also to de-escalate their behavior. If I've got to step in because I've got some guys who are not getting along, I'll tell one of them, hey man, why don't you go to your room, chill out, and listen to music. Well, they start to think that like somehow that's just like what normal people do. When you go out and get into trouble, you can kind of use this as a defense. Well, I was doing what I was supposed to do. I was listening. I was listening to music, and I was having a good day. Like Sarah Boone said, we had good days. I just don't know where this is coming from. We were having good days. By the way, I just couldn't help but throw it a little Sarah Boone there. So when he mentions that he was having a good day, to him, that's actually important. He thinks that the judge should consider that he was behaving himself, that he should get some kind of credit for that. Anything before I go on, Drew?
No.
All right. Anyway, wanted to go back just a tad as he talks about his good day.
I was trying to get a job. I did not catch any new charges.
It's been good. Like, I don't even know where this is coming from.
I'm not a bad person.
Angel.
I don't understand why the state is trying to prove me as a bad person. I understand they have a job to do, but this is just, it's not right to me, I'm not an evil guy, and I just keep going after me. I see spirits, I hear voices. I've been going through this for over a decade now, really since 2012, and I just feel attacked or just not safe since I was a little kid. And me growing up, I didn't know that I had these problems. In 2022, I came to prison for the first time. I accepted responsibility for my actions when I did what I did. I committed a crime in 2020 of December. It was 4 years ago. I paid my debt to society. I got out thinking I'm going to get work. I was really sick and ill. I was very malnourished. I don't complain about things.
He doesn't complain about things. He mentioned that he was malnourished, that he was trying to get a job. You don't get credit for trying, pal. He mentioned earlier that he couldn't get a job, so he was out. One thing that's really a requirement for people to adjust from a life of crime is that they've got to change their behavior, their pattern of behaviors. They've got to change who they associate with. They've got to get a job. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to do those things, but he was trying. And I don't know about you, Drew, but trying just isn't good enough for me. I don't get points for trying. And, some of this is criminal thinking to where he thinks that, it's good enough to try, but yeah, there's a part of it that's just Arrested Development. And if you guys I hope you're enjoying the little stat up there where I show you which mode he's in, whether he's in I'm a crazy person or I'm a good person mode. He switches back and forth. It's very hard. So if you can't tell what's going on, that little graphic is for you. Anything for you, Drew?
No, keep going.
All right, keep going.
I don't point the blame when people have done me wrong. I still treat everybody right. And the state just stated that I have no remorse, and they
No remorse. Go ahead, say it right now. You have some.
feel like I'm a bad person. I just don't understand why are they coming after me like this. But I understand they have a job to do. When I came to court, I know for a fact, Judge Johnson, I met Judge Holthus in 2023 of October, and you know what she told me when she revoked my probation? She said, Mr. Redden, I hope you get the help you truly need. I said, thank you so much, and I meant it. I know for a fact I'm not an evil person. I think all of you guys know that, You
seem kind of evil, though.
You do seem
But I'm not going to use stuff like me being on camera for my actions, But I know for a fact that I cared about Judge Mary Kay Holthus's well-being. When I left my house that day at 8 Rose Circle, I left my keys to my apartment, to my family, And I got in the car and I came to court doing the right thing. I gave up everything in case I don't get probation. I was like, well, at least I know I tried. And I'm sitting here talking to Judge Holthus, Ms. Johnson, and I swear I started hearing voices in 2012, really in 2014. I'm gonna make a long story short, but I just want to get the facts out because I don't want the state. I understand they have a job to do, but I'm not a bad person. I'm not an evil guy. But I came to court and I'm in a good mood. I'm listening to music on my phone. I'm like, oh, whatever. I remember I about to hug my mom, my foster mother who raised me since I was 11 years old. I hugged her like, just in case if I don't depress. You could see it in the videotape yourself. I was in a good mood. I don't want to be known as a person who has mental illness because those people get attacked. I've heard so many people who have mental illness commit suicide, and kill themselves, and commit things that they really don't mean. I hope I don't have mental illness. I try not to have mental illness, you know. I don't want to be known as a person who has mental illness because they get attacked, you know. So I try my best when I'm going through all these problems. Since I was a little boy, like I told you, I didn't know I had these problems until 2 years ago. I was sitting down in prison and I had this dictionary and I was like, oh, that's what that word means. That's what that really means. I didn't know that. Oh, stuff has a deeper meaning. You know, like, wow, I never could think like this. I was in prison with nothing to do. I did a 12 to 30 months. I did 15 months total, and I cleaned up my sentence. I paid my debt to society, and I got out as a good, productive member of society. I didn't know and didn't want to believe that I had mental problems, you know. I started seeing spirits November 2022. I'm not making excuses for my actions, but I'm saying I'm not a bad person. And I know that I did not intend to kill Mary Kay Holthus. I know I cared about her well-being, Judge Johnson. You know, and I came to court that day and I was talking to her and I told her I never stopped trying to do the right things. I wasn't pointing like, oh, this person did this to me. I deserve a chance at probation. Like, this is not fair. All I see was red, and all I heard her say, oh, this. Like she said, and I finally watched the whole video. I was standing here in the courtroom with all of you guys, and I finally saw the entire video. Judge Johnson, I'm like, I can't believe this. And I wasn't even mad at Michael Lasso. I was like, I commend him on doing for what he did, and everybody in the prison trying to make me hate him and hate the judge, and I'm still trying to do the right thing. They putting stuff in my ear and I can't get away from it. But basically what I'm trying to say is everything I've been doing, this is just like, this is not right to me. But like I said, I know the state has a job to do. And basically what I'm saying is, I know I cared about Mary Kay Holthus, to make a long story short, but when I was sitting here talking to her, I swear this has been happening to me since 2012. I saw nothing but red, and I heard her say, I think it's time for a taste of something else. I saw nothing but red, and I don't remember doing anything except for jumping on top of her and doing this to her robe. I was like, why are you doing this to me? That's what I wanted to ask her, if I think I know myself, but I'm not really sure. That's the only thing I could come up with. I had 11 months, but I can't really come up with anything, but I know that I cared about Judge Mary Kay.
Did you see there when he said I couldn't come up with anything in 11
Lazy.
months? And the graphics switched to I'm a lazy person.
Yes, they went from crazy to lazy.
I just want my credit.
Oh, this is well-being, you know? That's all. Thank you.
All right. So, guys, that was pretty haphazard and bad. But don't worry, because for those of you who say, well, you know, this poor guy, he really does have a deficit, whether it's criminal thinking or a mental health problem. But don't worry, he has a lawyer. And no, it's not the same guy as before, because there's no way that guy's hanging around for this.
No.
But don't worry, we have a great lawyer who's here with him. Do you want to? Should we hear a little bit from the lawyer?
Yeah, Montel Williams. Sure.
This is where I gave up, by the way, everyone.
Can you sit during mine? Sure. And, Your Honor, again, I hear the state in that they're saying it's a lack of impulse control. I agree with that. However, he's adjudicated guilty, not guilty, but by mental illness. And so, bottom line, his ability to control his impulses are vastly different from my ability.
Does he seem like he's doing a better job than I would do? I mean, I am not an attorney. I'm a non-attorney spokesperson.
Right.
But he doesn't seem prepared. He's just like, so he was guilty. I mean, guilty, but but not, not, by mental disease or defect. And so, Judge, you've had this before. He really seems to be phoning this one in. I wonder if it's because he's actually like afraid that at any moment this guy's going to jump up. And by the way, look at these two guys here, these two deputies. They don't normally stand there, do they, Drew?
No.
They normally will have a seat in the gallery, hang out by the door, smoke a cigarette, but they're right
Yeah,
there.
think the Jim Brewer SNL character Goat Boy when they had the prod.
Yes, they had they're getting ready to prod him and also throw a net over him at any given time.
Yeah.
But let's just watch this lawyer for a few more minutes. He's very whiny and very milquetoast. I'm sorry, I only bring out that word once per year, and I saved it for this. He's very milquetoast.
From Mr. Giordani's ability, he does not have the same ability to control his anger, what he's going to do, because as you saw in Dr. Paglini's report, from day one, from birth, he has had
From day one, from birth, he could not control his impulses from the day he was born, Drew. You know what's funny is that neither could you or me. Like we were both, shitting ourselves and screaming.
I remember crying.
But you and I got a little bit better. This guy did not get better.
Right. I do remember throwing
illness based upon his mother's drug use at the time of her pregnancy, the stuff that he saw during him growing up, going through different households, going to a stable home in his foster parent, but he was still unable to comply with just normal behaviors. And that all of that should be taken into account.
Are those deputies bored? The one guy looks really bored.
They know that they can't let anything else happen.
Well, yeah, they're kind of, they've been watching, ready for him to do something at any given time, but they're also like, this is all pretty perfunctory. This guy's going to prison. Yeah. I mean, because he's already doing time for his other thing anyway, so.
Mm-hmm.
I think this case starts, again, in April of 2013. The 18th is when he was arrested after going after his brother-in-law with the baseball bat. Basically, again, this was during a period of time where he wasn't doing his medication. He was off his meds. He's going through his paranoid disorders, whatever those that were outlined by Dr. Paglini. And this whole incident.
I can see Diabra like whispering, Ixnay on the at bay.
Oh. I was saying that he probably just made up that doctor's name there. He doesn't actually remember what his disease
Dr. Gabriella Sabatini.
Dr. Probatini.
Arises from that. He gets into court and he's deemed incompetent. He can't comply with the normal court proceedings that were occurring. He refused transport 3-4 different times. Then he gets into court and he's unable to control himself. Why?
Anyway, he just keeps going on from there. Because he was unable to control himself. Why? For the 18 reasons I already said.
Right, for the many, many reasons.
It's almost like in this case, like the evidence used against him would also just be his exculpatory evidence. Now, Judge, can you believe this guy did this? He's got to be nuts, right? Like who would jump up and assault the judge who's sentencing him? Of course, we also had Sarah Boone's blame the judge multiple times.
These are not these two parallel each other. The Sarah Boone case and this case, they kind of like I was having a good day. You saw that parallel, and then also she was just insane in her soliloquy. Trying to convince the judge that she's got it together, that she's really not a bad person, before he handed a huge life sentence to her. So like these kind of are the same thing in a sense. It's the only difference is one of them freely admits that he has mental health issues.
Well, yeah, but it only insofar as that it will help him. Sarah would have said anything either, but her image was probably a little bit more important. He didn't want to be labeled as mentally ill because he thinks that will affect him in life at prison.
Well,
he doesn't want that stigma in prison.
He pled mentally. He pled guilty mentally ill. It must be a Nevada thing.
Yeah,
I don't know how many states have it.
He took the advice of his attorney, the affirmative defense, but at the same time, he gets up there in front of the judge. He goes, "I don't want to be known as mentally ill." Then they do this, and this, and then what I put on there in text was like, then why did you even bring it up? Because Theodore Kaczynski, some people's heroes. He refused to offer that affirmative defense of not guilty by mental disease or defect. They pulled him out of a hole in the ground. He looked like a precursor of Saddam Hussein there with the long beard and the scraggly appearance and all that. Could have easily just said, no, I'm not mentally ill, but he didn't want to undermine all of his important work. This guy kind of wants the best of both worlds, where he wants the affirmative defense to get off the hook, but then, for some reason he keeps talking about what a good person he is. But he switches between those two modes. I'm a good person. Don't sentence me harshly because I'm a good person. And also don't sentence me harshly because I'm a crazy person. Well, Bap said this earlier in the chats. I don't know if she's still here, but if you're mentally ill and you know it, and you have some functionality to the point where you're not a ward of the state or you're not in a conservatorship with someone else, you don't have a guardian, it's really on you. To manage your medical care. A lot of people have struggled with mental disease or defects or illnesses or problems or challenges, and it's on each of us to be responsible for ourselves. It doesn't mean I don't have empathy for acute cases. I worked with those guys for 10 years, but if this guy's out in the community and if he's going to have the responsibilities that come with that, then he's got to take care of himself. And if he can't do that, then in my view, he's got to take full responsibility for supermaning a bench and beating the hell out of a judge. And like you said, an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. And it does say something if we don't come back harshly and say, like, you cannot come after our judges. We have to rebuke that strongly, because we're not doing that for any other crime. Look at how it's affecting the rest of society. Police officers and common people are, shoplifting in California. We're not fighting back against it. And it's becoming normalized. It's becoming commonplace, and it's becoming tolerated. Well, judges are smart enough to know that you can't indulge that sort of thing in the courtroom. So if I may draw a broad contrast between this one instance in Las Vegas and say, we're going to not allow someone to hop over the bench and beat the tar out of a judge because of what that would do for our courts, why can't we have that same mentality when it comes to our streets, when we have people who are attacking people in the streets?
Right.
Drew?
Right. I do think I would be contrarian to a lot of the opinions that I'm seeing, because I do think that he probably had developmental issues as a kid. I think he was, the attorney probably nailed it. He was a crack baby. I mean, he was probably, not probably, the attorney is at least saying it in open court, like, this is the kid that got bounced around to foster home and had mental issues, and obviously didn't follow the advice of the doctor, or wasn't able to be kept on track. And it came back later in life to bite him. There is no crime for being mentally ill, and there's no crime for not taking your medicine, but you're going to have to, at some point, take responsibility for the actions that are caused when you haven't taken your medicine and when you haven't taken, those steps that people have you on in treatment. So I do have a place, I do empathize with this guy. I feel bad that he's talking about, there's no reason for me to disbelieve that he has been battling with this since he was a child, and that when he was growing up, he always had to deal with it, and he saw spirits, and like, I feel bad for that. Like, he didn't ask for that, but at the same time, there is there's responsibility to be had for what happens when you don't follow your course of treatment. So that's what he got. I mean, I don't know if 26 years is appropriate, but and I think they're going a little extra hard because he was a judge, but I don't know. I do see what the guy is saying. I don't think that it's 100% truthful, but I don't think it's 100% a lie either. So
Do you mind if I hop into some middle ground?
yeah, go for it.
My sister, who I've mentioned before, she's passed away now, but she had really, 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 really acute mental health problems. You could probably put her anywhere you want on any spectrum of anything, and she's probably going to have some kind of score or diagnosis there. She was profound. The thing is that as damaged as she was from the day she was born through no fault of her own, she also had a really bad mom, and she had a really bad dad. She had really bad parents who didn't do a good job of raising her. So she had all these problems that were kind of inside of her when she was born that just happened to be the way that God made her. But when it came to behavioral stuff, she also never received any proper parenting or proper reinforcement. And so in some sense, she wasn't responsible for the things that she did, the problems that she had. She even had encounters with law enforcement, unfortunately. But I can also just remember her as a child, as a wayward child, and she would do things that she should not be doing as a child, and she would not receive proper instruction and loving correction behavior on that. So I think it's possible for someone to be acutely mentally ill, and it's possible for someone to be a criminal. I think you could be both of those things, and you can become a criminal through just not being raised right. So you could be raised wrong, you could have mental health problems, and it could be a mix of both of those things. It could be that he's right there.
Yeah, I think that's a dead-on assessment.
Yeah. Anything else, Drew, before I play some voicemails? Or
I'm dying
the
to hear the
phone lines?
voicemails, the holiday edition.
The holiday edition of the voicemails, which we're going to hear from Jim, of course. But something I really missed from year one is all the bullshit voicemails. Like, we used to get nothing but bullshit voicemails. And we were like, where are the serious ones? Well, we kind of went hard in that direction, and we never got any like silly voicemails. So with that in mind, let's play this from Anonymous. What are you hiding from, you coward?
Yeah, I'm calling 911 because I don't feel like parenting my child. They're acting really out there, and I just can't take it anymore. So I would just like an officer to come over and deal with it so I don't have to be a responsible parent myself. All right, I'll be waiting outside my door.
That's about 40% of the 911 calls every year.
This is a parent whose child will one day jump a judge.
That was so timely.
It was very timely. We're getting lots of calls like this. It's got to the point now where I don't even do the wise ass answer. We're like, well, is there an adult there? I used to say that. Or like, is the child's parent home? I'm the parent. I'm like, say it again. I would kind of make them manifest that. I don't even do that anymore because I don't have time. So I'm just like, name, phone number, weapons, drugs, alcohol, how many people are in the house, and a few other perfunctory things. I'll get a deputy over there. And the deputies can waste their time or indulge their time in dealing with that as much as they want. I don't, I used to really work myself into a lather, but I realized I was just killing myself. And since I have to do this for 20 to 30 more years, I've decided to be resigned about that.
For your sanity.
For my own sanity. Also, I'm trying to remember which one of these from Jim I'm not supposed to play. I don't remember. Here we go.
Hey, John and Drew, this is Jim from Florida, calling about the Martin Muniz case from Cleveland, Ohio. That was a great case to put out to your listeners and viewers because of the police tactics involved. So you discussed why the cops were waiting before they went in. Well, you got to remember, you could what if it to death, but you got to remember, what if the suspect is still inside? What if there's a second suspect? So you really don't want to jump into things. And which leads me to the next point. Having the family member there, it's a high risk, high gain situation. Only because when family members there, you can gain intelligence, get information, which is a positive. The negative, everything that happens, that family member sees. And sometimes finding out that all those people have passed away inside that house may not be a good thing for them to hear, family to hear, as soon as the cops outside hear it. Emotions, grief, so on and so forth. And then also, I have seen situations like that. Then as time goes on, the family turns on the cops. So when the family is there at the scene, that sometimes can be troublesome. Moving on to Martin Muniz. Yes, John was totally correct. He is state raised. He can't live. He can't operate. He can't adapt to the free world. He needs the structure of prison. And there's no way that he would survive on the outside. Another thing, we're talking about the gun.
Let's listen to the other half of the voicemail about the gun. First of all, can you tell Jim misses policing a little bit?
Yes. Well,
I think he's going to become his own sovereign police officer soon.
There's a connection that I'll tell you about too.
Let's make the connection.
John and Drew, Jim from Florida, part 2. Sorry, I'm babbling on.
It's okay.
Anyway, the cops really need to get the gun because you guys are 100% correct. You need to get as much evidence as possible just in case that interview is suppressed somehow. So you want to be able to put together the best case you can with the most evidence in order to make sure that a conviction is secured. The last thing these cops want is for him to get out on some type of technicality that some slick lawyer is going to put on him. He kept saying the bad guy kept saying he wants to go back home. Cops told him, hey, we need that gun. That is all part of going back home. Keep up the good work, guys. Appreciate everything that you put into these broadcasts. They are very compelling. Bye.
That was nice of him to say that we're compelling since we were recently told we were not compelling.
Right. He is rehabilitating us.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give all of the secrets away. I can tell you this though. I want to get, so it ties in with Jim from Florida. It also ties in with the direction of the show and everything. I kind of want to get into more storytelling. Like what we're doing right now and what we started to do from the beginning was X's and O's. We're breaking down calls from 911 to what happens with the body cam, and we're pausing and talking and explaining. But I want to get more, and I haven't really spoken to John about this at length, but I want to get more into the 70-30 of let's tell the true crime story, and the 30% would be the X's and O's, or we'll let the questions drive the, like, why would you do that? Or why is that, Abby had a question in there about, wouldn't that be burglary, not home invasion or whatever? So in doing that also, I want to start telling little side stories, little projects for our YouTube channel. One of which is a case out of Hillsborough County by and the guy's name is Dexter Alonzo Livingston. And it's a case that Jim from Florida may be familiar with. I'm pretty sure he is. I'm pretty sure he's very familiar with it. And what that was he eliminated 5 members of his family. He had I believe he was a foster something or other, maybe. I know that he was kind of like a guest at the house and maybe a fringe relative or something to that effect. And there was a school bus driver that didn't show up for work, so they sent our agency over to kind of check things out. They looked in the windows, they looked all over the place. They ended up going into the residence, and they found 5 people gone. One of which was I think a special needs kid, but she was very, very young. And it was a fascinating case because it went on for years that Dexter Livingston was whether or not he was mentally competent to stand trial, because I believe he was deaf and or he was and I'm going off of memory on this one, but it was something to do with him being deaf and mute or acting like he was deaf and mute. It was like a very lengthy interview that they did with him, and he didn't say anything. He was convicted to, according to this website I'm looking at, sentenced to 5 consecutive life sentences back in 2006, but I'm pretty sure that there were issues of whether he could stand trial or not. So it may have been that he was committed to a mental health facility, but he'll never see the light of day again. I mean,
yeah, that's the truth of it. I don't want you guys to think that it's generally the case that when someone pleads not guilty by mental disease or defect, that like they're just going to get washed and tumble dried and be back out on the streets in a year or 2 years. Like the guy that shot at Reagan, John Hinckley Jr. He was kind of well known in Virginia, where I grew up, because he was being held, right there. He was being held in kind of our community. Eastern State Hospital, maybe. But he was sort of well known because he was the guy that attempted to kill the president, and he was someone who's being held in a hospital area. He was held for years and years and years. I don't think he got out until I was in high school, or maybe even after. But he was in for a long, long time, and so and they don't always even ever get out. So. And of course, there's always exceptions. You're gonna log onto the internet and find some case where someone only did a few years. There's a case that I'm currently looking into called the Toy Box Killer case, where some people who are associated with the case really didn't do much time at all. So stuff like that always happens, but it's not like what you see necessarily on TV, and you don't necessarily have to be afraid of those people going back out of the community. But you said this guy was getting 26 years.
No, which guy? Diablo?
Yeah. How much time did he get?
Between 26 and 75, I think it was.
Oh, that's a lot of years for just a few minutes of beating somebody up.
Tearing some hair out. Yeah. He got the attempted murder on her. Then he got the enhancement on top of that because of her being a judicial official. Then he got the assault on the officer. Like he just, for it being Las Vegas, he hit the jackpot.
Oh, nice pun.
Thank you.
Very, very good. Folks, if you want to be a part of the show, you can call us at 848-COM-911. That's 848-266-6911. Leave us a voicemail. I want 2025 to be full of baloney voicemails. Do you remember when that Zodiac guy kept calling me, scaring the shit out of me?
Quack, quack. And then 10-7 Canoe.
Yes, I miss 10-7 Canoe and various other Canadian people. If you're still out there, please call us.
And still Canadian.
Yeah, Hydra Man Blue. Fuck, those are weird and long.
Yeah,
I can edit those down, but you can call back again.
The flagpole,
yeah. Just memory lane. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you leave a comment below. Do you think that 27 years or however long Drew just said it was too long, or should he have been let out, or was it too harsh, or was there, what do you think of the sentence? Would you have sentenced him for less? Would you have been afraid to sentence him to that many years? If you're listening on Apple, hey, before you go, make sure you leave a 5-star rating and review. We always appreciate you doing that, letting us know that we are compelling, that soothes our fragile consciences. We're very fragile ego guys here. We always need that. 5-star rating and review. Spotify makes it more simple. Make sure you also have your automatic downloads on. That's something that's really helpful, is making sure you never miss an episode of the Comm Center. That way, if you decide, I don't really care about Drew, I don't really care about John, well, you know what? You still get your download. That's what I'm really after. So make sure you set that up so we get your automatic downloads. You can find us on Instagram at the Comm Center. You can find Drew at What Say Drew. You can also find him at Drew Crime, various other things. He also has various shadow accounts that he uses just to stalk people with. We're also on Twitter. You can find us at Comm Center Pod. We're on Facebook as well. And just a reminder that we are not on TikTok for the rest of TikTok.
It's about to be banned anyway.
It's about
TikTok's
to be banned.
about to be. We're about to ban TikTok.
We're about to ban TikTok, which make me sad because I made this graphic just for TikTok. This took me over 6 hours.
That's evergreen, my friend. If the Supreme Court hears and agrees that we can ban them, they'll be banned.
Yeah. I only want to be spied on by American software. All right.
Yes, and AI. Well, hey, friends, I hope you enjoyed that clip. And if you did, leave us a comment. And if you didn't, leave us 2 comments. Either way, you can go to our YouTube page at the Comm Center and see the full video. I hope you go there. I hope you become a member. If you want to follow along with everything we do, go to our website, which is thecommcenter.com.